from Nathan's view. Wow. Wow. Cat-like reflexes.
Oh goodness, Sebastian Coffre, another mistake for him, and he is a sitting duck down the front stretch here with the double draft here for Overbay and Ritters. Are they going to make it 3 wide? Ritters goes for it on Overbay, while Overbay goes for it on Coffre. Up the inside, coming into Doohan corner, and Coffre might have to yield here. He's already lost the place to Overbay. He's going to switch to the outside and try and widen the entry to keep Ritters behind him. Looks like he is going to do that. Late apex, and that will work out all right for Sebastian Coffre, but it's slim pickings at the moment for the number 28.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
Porsche's heritage in racing goes back a long way. It's been a staple of the company almost from the get-go. But ingraining themselves in the psyche of racers and race fans goes beyond their impressive success. Over the last few decades, the Porsche Cup allows up-and-coming hopefuls the chance to prove their mettle. So today, our drivers will emulate a virtual version of that as we get ready to watch the Majors Porsche Wild Cup, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth tonight is Adam Lindgren and DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Road Atlanta will be the host to today's round. It's a roller coaster of a circuit, so let's head to our track guide to get a look at it. Welcome to Road Atlanta, the scene of incredible sports car racing for decades and the home to the Petit Le Mans. This is a track that has proven itself to be worthy of attention on a world stage. With it being situated only an hour northeast of Atlanta, Georgia, the circuit is in a prime location. But despite its flagship race, in contrast to the real Le Mans, the full course is a measly 2.5 miles long. The club layouts also clock in at just under 2 miles. Packed within this small lap length is a series of technical and challenging corners, some of which can be race-ending even when small mistakes are made. Turn 1 is a fast sweeper which compresses the car into the track, but the high speeds mean that when you go off, you typically go off in a big way. Turn 3 is notorious for its curved entry into a blind apex. Too far inside and you face a cut course penalty. Too far outside and you're likely to spin out. Then there's the unassuming Turn 5. The wide curving lures you into getting greedy, but the close walls on either side gobble up cars and spit them out as a crumpled heap. With all the tricky fast turns, that's not to say that there aren't passing opportunities. The main one comes at the chicane at the bottom of the backstretch. The huge downhill drop into the turn makes outbraking yourself quite easy though, so be careful. The whole thing wraps up with the frightening final corner. With nothing but a giant wall right to the outside as cars fly through at high speed, it's not often that wrecks are small. Boasting a wide swath of series over its history, everything from NASCAR to Indy Lights and of course IMSA, the main use of the track is SCCA events and driving schools. No wonder this place is popular both in real life and here on the iRacing service. Fans will no doubt get to enjoy many more years of action at this incredible track. Well, Adam, we've covered a lot of races here, but the new Porsche Cup should make for an interesting and I think fitting combination.
Absolutely. Road Atlanta is a legendary and occasionally infamous track among real and virtual drivers alike, and tonight will be something special. Two 40-minute races across this 12-turn, 2.54-mile or 4.088-kilometer circuit. And honestly, both with standing starts of the Porsche 992 GT3 Cup will make this very interesting. This amazing car is a blast to drive around a flowing and tumultuous circuit like Road Atlanta, but comes with one major downside: infamous on-throttle oversteer, especially on corner exit. And with a standing start, these drivers will be hard-pressed to keep the car from coming around on them in the long, sweeping turn 4 before the S's and the bumpy, dangerous turn 5. If they can make it through those corners clearly, the focus shifts from survival to attack, as the drivers will try and maximize their corner exit speed on a 7 to prevent the ever-present draft overtake into the turn 10 complex. A good exit from there and you're home free for that lap. And with about 30 laps in these 40 minutes, Joe, it's going to be hard for our leaders to break away without some mistakes from the chasers.
No doubt about that. But of course, we also have a championship in this series. And up at the pro level of that championship, Christian Challoner is leading. And that's going to be a bit of a talking point because some of his teammates have proven quite good. And Tom Abramitis, one of them out there, as he, in the last round, finally got his first win in the series. And Christian is a little bit under the weather today, so he might not be on his game. Now, Nick Ottinger, another one from his team that has been challenging, and Ozzie Milwayne is trying to keep up there. The first non-Mega Racing team driver, along with Andrew Waring, helping support him. Only a single point between them, trying to bring their team up in the Teams Championship, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But for now, let's head to the sportsman standings here. DJ?
Well, in those sportsman standings there, you can see Spencer Todd holding about a 13-point advantage over Chris Tito. Nathan Medina not too far back from him in a very close battle between Medina there and Gagaro for third place, only a point separating them. Robert Deloach a little bit back as well, and Maurice Gomillion only about 3 points back. Very, very tight mid-pack there in the battle. This is a very, very tight standings in the sportsman.
Yeah, and then we got the American Legends as well, and this is very tight between Kevin Hill and Brian Barnes. And with Brian Barnes and Kevin Hill both here tonight, 39 points. That means if Kevin finishes last, it'll be 15th or higher for Brian to take the lead. Ray Partridge and Brian McGreevy are not here tonight, and Wayne Hutchison is here, but there's no way he could mathematically take the lead tonight either. But still, very tight up there for the top of the American Legends Championship.
And as we move over to the Legends Sports, it is very, very tight. Robert Deloach only 3 points ahead of Gomillion. From there on down, it is a huge distance to the rest of the drivers. So it seems like it's mostly going to be between the two Forge PC Racer Sport 1 drivers. But don't forget about those fights back around 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. You can see those remain incredibly close themselves, and that is just as important to these drivers. As we move along to the next one, DJ, we've got the pro teams.
Well, as you can imagine there, with the top 3 positions in the pro standings being taken by those Mega Racing Team boys, it is a very large points advantage for Mega Racing Team over Evolve Sim Sports there. Forge PC Racer Pro, about 150 points off of Evolve, so still some room to make up there. Dog Bear Red, a healthy chunk back. The closest battle we've really got is for 4th there between Dog Bear Red, Udox Lola, and Dog Bear Blue, all within about 50 points of each other there. Kinetic Racing Americas sits about 200 points off of them, and then we get way back there with Black Magic Motorsports, Sector 5 PT, and Forge PC Racer Pro 2.
And then we've got the sports team standings, and similarly dominant up at the top is Forge PC Racer Sport 1 over Mad Sim Racing, 235 points in the lead there, with Evolve Sim Sports Academy just about 52 points back of them. So fairly close actually between those two. And then we got Vengeance Motorsports back there, another 70 points back, and Sector 5 Racing quite a ways back. So look for the real swap to be between 3rd and 4th today in the point standings when we head to next round.
As for today's race details, going to be a bit interesting, a little bit different from a lot of others that they've done here in the majors, as it's going to be two races that they'll be running, and they each will affect each other. Now, they are going to be about 40 minutes each. This is says 23 laps. That was for the Euro split, but still the same in the terms of the top six being inverted in race two. Now, 26 incident limit in each of the races means you got to keep it nice and clean, but you do have the spare car if you run into damage. The only downside is they will not have pit stops in this race, so that is going to be a huge hindrance to having a good result if you have to come in and take that spare car in either of the races. As for the charity that we traditionally do here in the majors, today it's going to be Envision El Salvador. Envision El Salvador is a ministry site of the Christian and a Missionary Alliance located in the capital city of San Salvador. They seek to advance the kingdom of God by partnering short-term mission teams and interns with local churches and schools. For more information, check out their link in the description below. So, as we head off to the qualifying session here, we've already got a few drivers in the session having set their first lap. They do get a 4-lap qualifying, but they're out there solo here, DJ. So no slipstream to be able to try and get a better time on that long backstretch.
No, none indeed. Is they're just going to have to actually really wheel this car around here. The most time to be made up, going to be through the S's, going down through that turn 10 section. Very, very tricky to be able to get that right.
Absolutely. And we're kind of having a bit of talking before the race about how important the qualifying might be. And we do have our pit reporter back once again. Adam Face Facciaponti is with us. And Adam, I know you didn't get to compete this time around in the European split race, which was a different race anyways. But what are you thinking in terms of passing and whatnot? How important will the qualifying be?
Well, hi guys, thanks for having me back again. So yeah, the qualifying is going to be super important, especially with that standing start. The grid here is pretty large, so you really don't want to have to start towards the back of this grid with that standing start running all the way back past turn 12, and as large as this grid is, it might even be back towards turn 11. And these starts here are just so chaotic, as you guys alluded to in the intro. The S's and I mean, it's just so tight on the first lap. The qualifying here, you get 4 laps. For me, when I ran the support race here last week, qualifying, the car really comes in around lap 3, so I would expect to see guys better their first and second laps as the qualifying goes on here. So the pole's still up for grabs.
And right now, Scott Brazier has that provisional pole. Challoner just crossed and improved himself up into 4th, but it's Ross Banfield who joins on the front row in that number 22. We do have a couple of non-America's region drivers that have hopped over for this race, as they are allowed to, with this being one of the wild card races of the season, where they are all different from one another. And obviously, if anybody doesn't necessarily like the one that they're in, they're allowed to jump over and even do multiples if they want. But Nick Ottinger comes across a 20.4, puts him up into 7th, Adam, and it does look like Face's prediction about it improving is very much coming through here.
Yeah, let me tell you, it is right now the top 15 that are underneath a second when it comes to qualifying times. So, yeah, that improvement is exactly what's coming through for these drivers as they get into their second laps. But I'm expecting these times to actually tighten up rather than widen out over the course of this qualifying session. It was pretty much the entire field under 2 seconds in practice earlier. So I'm expecting it to be very tight today.
Absolutely. And DJ, you know, I'm also kind of wondering, as Face mentioned, a standing start. Now, they've done standing starts here with other races. In fact, we've had, I think, at least one already this season in the majors. But It's still its own unique beast, and if drivers aren't paying attention, if they didn't practice that, I wonder if that's going to be a real problem.
Yeah, it could be a real problem, especially considering the rear engine, rear-wheel drive makeup of these Porsche Cup cars. Remember, a lot of weight over that rear axle. It's very easy to spin those rear tires, and so drivers are going to have to be especially careful of that as they get off the line. We could see a little bit of that tire smoke pop out and maybe see a couple of drivers caught off guard.
Ooh, Ottinger just went up to the front row. Brian Lockwood right now has the top spot with Brazier getting bumped down to third, and he's done with his qualifying. So is Lockwood. Ottinger has one last fast lap that he can run. And after that, he is out of laps here in qualifying. You can see they've only got 2 minutes left. So anybody who waited a little too long, probably going to run out of time here. I just saw Daniel Johnson cross, and he jumps himself up into 30th. With his improvement, but we're watching Ottinger to see if he can take that pole position away. But Adam, it's still about a 10th and a half ahead of him.
Yeah, well, front rows should be good enough for him considering the standing start. The people I'm most concerned about are our regular points runners like Christian Challenger, Andrew Waring in 5th and 6th, Tom Abramitis back in 9th position. I mean, we've got a lot of fast drivers that are tucked into the mid-pack, and standing starts at Road Atlanta are not common. It's going to be a very interesting start of this race, especially with half the field coming down the hill. It's going to bunch everyone up into turn 1. Should be very interesting. Let's see whether Nick Ottinger can get himself onto the pole position.
It does look like he's improving, but it's going to be oh so tight. He's hovering about 1 to 2 tenths faster, which is about what he needs. He crosses the line, a 1:19.9, the first driver to break the 1:20 mark, and he is on pole.
Mega lap there for Nick Ottinger. He will be incredibly happy with that, but only 14 thousandths of a second above of Lockwood. Those tight times being just as we said, Joe, as the number 17 crosses over the line. That's going to be an improvement to 29th for Wayne Hutchinson.
Do we have anybody else able to complete a lap here? I see Ray Partridge still running on his 4th flyer, and I think he's the only one that is able to set a time. Yes, he's going to be the last of our drivers, and he's actually parking it. He looks to be done here today. Well then, that will set our starting grid. Before we get to it, we do want to mention one of our series sponsors, the Majors Garage, home of free Baseline Plus setups. Get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more by simply clicking on our link in the description below. And if you use our special discount code Majors GSRC, you'll get 10% off. Let's head to that starting grid. Nick Ottinger taking the pole in the dying moments over Brian Lockwood, but it is very tight between them. Scott Brazier will start from this 3rd position. Ross Banfield will be 4th, and Christian Challenger, still overcoming his illness, is going to start from 5th. It'll be Andrew Warren in 6th and Kurt Crum P7. Then it's Brenton Foster 8th. 5th row is Nathan Dowd and Tom Abramitis.
In 11th place, it's going to be Mark Torres, followed by Eric Smith, with Kevin Hill and Steve Driscoll behind them. Justin Morton will line up 15th, with Mark Stevenson to his outside. Travis Warling, Ethan Azowski will be in row 9, and then Justin Kirby and Lyndon Swaby round out your top 20.
Joshua Thomas in 21st with Liam Quinn in 22nd position, with 23rd going to Jeff Schmeier and Nick Kuhn alongside him in row 12. Row 13 goes to Joey Haynes and Brent Kirby in 26th, Brian Barnes 27th, Ray Partridge 28th. Your top 30 rounded out by Wayne Hutchinson and Lynn Kinchlow.
Daniel Johnson starts from 31st. It's Ryan Steele in P32, followed by Rob Powers on the inside. The next row, Brian Halleck is 34th, with Brian McGreevy 35th. It's Jason Wallet, P36, William Fletcher 37th, and Ryan Bush, the last of our 38-car field. Let's see how they fare here today, as we just about have everybody gridded up. And there you can see how they're coming around that final corner on the start. But it is also a very hot track today. So starting without spinning the tires is probably going to be important, because you're going to be abusing that rubber. Look at that, 115 Fahrenheit. That's 46 Celsius for our folks that are on the metric system. And it does look like we just about have everybody out there. In fact, I'm double checking, and I think we do. Nope, looks like we're still needing Ryan Steele and Rob Powers to grid up towards the back. Looks like Steele now plops his car on the downward slant towards the final turn, and Steele is out there too. Here we go. It is the Porsche Wild Cup here in the majors. The first time they've run this in the majors series as the engines start to rev and the lights come up. Green flag is out. Oh, and it's a horrible start from third place. That's going to be Scott Brazier. He gets absolutely swamped. Multiple cars able to go around him, but down into the first turn, Ottinger still holds the track advantage, and it looks like Lockwood is going to have to give way, but it is 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 all the way down as they try and vie for position, DJ, into turn 3.
And here comes into the hard braking zone of turn 3. That's going to be very tricky to get around. It was a great start for Christian Challoner, able to jump his way forward, but up front it is Lockwood and Ottinger starting to build a little bit of a streak away.
And it's clean through the back of the field all the way through turn 2, so everyone got through that fairly clean. In the S's, it looks like Justin Morton's had a problem. He's starting to fall back positions, but pretty much everybody clean through the S's this time, Joe.
Yeah, Morton off in turn 5 that I could see, but didn't catch what happened to him in the S's. Look at this.
Jason Kirby's gone around, Joe.
Oh, no. This early in the race, and he's in the middle of the track. He's going to get hit, unfortunately. Another car weaving off the circuit. That's Rob Powers. And that might be a spare car for a couple people with that one, as he certainly was in the midst of it. He'll get going, but Ottinger leads down into the chicane. Lockwood was mighty close. So what a look there from Ross Banfield. He might get a slowdown penalty, and he does. He's pulling off to the side of the track to try to serve it, but he is going to be mighty slow around a very fast corner, DJ.
Yeah, he is. That's going to drop him all the way down to 7th place there, and it may not even be done bleeding there quite yet, as it looks like Brazier going to be able to try to get on by as well. He's finally going to find himself all the way down into 9th place.
And just behind them, Steve Driscoll losing positions as well. He was up in 14th, now losing positions to Eric Smith and Joshua Thomas on his inside as they come across turn 2. Look at them side by side still. Now it's single file. It has to be as you go down to the S's. There's absolutely no room to fight, but these drivers still bottled up right now. We do have a little bit of a breakaway though. Our top 2 have broken away by about a second and a half.
Absolutely, and so that's Ottinger and Lockwood, as we mentioned, as we continue to watch here in the mid-pack. Oh, and Nick Kuhn looks like, he's our first real victim for turn 5. He spun off to the inside of the course, eventually gets it rolling, and not sure how hard if he hit that inside wall, but at least he's on the track. Good news for that. Meanwhile, okay, so Lockwood once again behind Ottinger, but almost looks like, DJ, he's intentionally staying there. He could have had a go at things, but he didn't do it for the second time in a row.
Yeah, he's lifting a little bit there, Joe. And as we said, these are 2 sprint races, so it's not like he's got to be worried about fuel. I think he's just relatively content to stay behind Ottinger here, likes his pace, and is just maybe waiting for the right timing to get it done. It's a little bit confusing, but that's what I think it is. And he's got to get a move on, though. Challoner just set the fastest lap behind him.
Yeah, Christian making up for a qualifying that maybe wasn't up to the standards that he usually expects of himself, but he is up to the podium positions. He's still about half a second behind, so he's got some time to make up. And did Josh Thomas have a problem here?
Yes, he did. He got pushed off wide a little bit in the battle for 13th. It's about 5 cars deep is that, and so he ended up on the outside of turn 1, got shoved off a little bit. He recovers, but back to 24th now.
Seems like mistake mitigation is going to be a big talking point here today, because we've already seen some relatively fast drivers lose a lot of track position. And there's no full course yellows here, so there's nothing to bunch them back up. Speaking of bunching up, though, Ottinger, is he going to go for it? Yes, this time he decides he wants to try and have a pass. And Lockwood is going to easily go by. Ottinger can't fight it. Challoner is caught up with the slipstream himself, and he brings Waring with him. What was a 2-car breakaway, Adam, has suddenly switched right back.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the draft that I talked about. It's really easy to get a draft with the gigantic wings of these Porsches. They've slimmed them down since the last version of the GT3, but still, they punch a huge hole in the air, and these sleek Porsche bodies can just cut straight through that quite easily. So Christian Challoner able to close that second and a half gap just by a little bit of good braking, and then also because Ottinger was slow, he didn't have any draft. I think we're going to see a lot of swapping at the front of this field when we get onto this backstretch.
Well, that's going to make it fascinating for the end, and also is probably a big help for those who get reversed in that top 6 after this race is over and we head to the second one, because they're going to want to make some passes if they want to try and get it back-to-back for the win. Onto the backstretch once again, DJ. It erupts all over again.
Yeah, it does indeed. Here comes that big draft battle. Let's see what he can do and what can happen here. Remember, Ottinger and Challen are teammates, so they may be playing a little bit of leapfrog to keep themselves closed in behind Brian Lockwood.
Lockwood's starting to pull away, and we have to remember that Lockwood races these on the pro level here on iRacing. So Brian is very much a specialist in this car, and you can kind of tell by the way that he is starting to pull away from Nick Ottinger, who's also a black stripe, but, well, on the oval side.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Lockwood racing for Team Mega right now. And look at this absolutely tight battle as they come down through the final turn. It's amazing to see all these drivers. The Americas region, so practiced. These guys running nose to tail. Absolutely no wiggle room for anybody. Always running so close together. Such a great battle. This is for 7th.
And I got to be honest, that first lap or two really wowed me at how tightly everybody was racing together. Face, I don't know about you, but I would have been ultra nervous in the middle of that pack, and knowing that just one mistake could cause huge problems.
Oh, look out. Sorry, Ray Partridge has had a problem. This is one of our Legends competitors.
Oh, no. Yeah, he's getting it going. That was down in turn 1. That's not a corner I got to think Face is very kind to this car.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there. Honestly, it's been a very impressive start. In the support race last week, it was a little crazy on the start, but you know what? That's where these majors guys tend to work some of the kinks out of this and get it kind of figured out. How far can we push? And it's actually been a really clean start, especially how big this field is. We had a couple little incidents, but these guys are doing a great job. And a lot of corners on this track are tough with this car, especially with the curbs. And you really got to attack the curbs in a lot of corners to make lap time around here. So it's not easy for sure. So these guys are doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, you can just see how much they're having to bounce over some of them at times. This thing is a little bit softly sprung in some cases, despite being a purpose-built race car. Sowski, who we see on screen, is currently holding on to 11th, trying to keep Kevin Hill from taking one of his many positions that he has gained. In fact, I do believe Sowski is our hard charger right now, DJ.
Yeah, he is up 7 on the day. The only other driver that looks like they are close to him is Ryan Steele, who is up 6, and Brian McGreevy, who's up 5. So definitely just trying to keep pushing on here. Biggest loser thus far, that is Brazier, who after that terrible start and that slowdown penalty is dropped all the way down to 10th, down 7 on the day.
Man, and he looks a little stuck at the back of a train. Maybe he could use that slipstream a little bit here, as right now he's got one of the UDOX drivers, Ross Banfield, just in front of him. And then Tom Abramitis, one of the Team Mega drivers as well, accelerating towards that braking of the final chicane. Down to the inside goes Banfield. He's through. We're going to get 2 for 1. No, I think Brazier wanted it, but then decided against it, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely decided against it. I think sticking your nose in there is a little bit too exciting of a move there, but Brazier's definitely not done yet. He wants that position from Abramitis. The question is, where can he make the pass? The best place to do it is probably going to be into turn 6. Sometimes he could surprise somebody into turn 2, but he's a little bit too far back for that this time.
Into the braking of turn 3 once again. Still has Abramitis right there. Banfield's could do it, surely. So can Scott. Through the S's, though, nobody's passing yet. Brenton Foster just in front of them. Ooh, with a great exit coming over turn 5 and just streaks away from the 3 of them chasing. But the real test, DJ, is going to be that exit of turn 7.
Yeah, and it's coming down into turn 6 as well. That is a deceptively fast corner. You want to carry a lot of speed in there, only a 3rd, 4th gear corner, and then bring it down into 2nd or 1st gear for turn 7 and get onto the loud pedal. Here comes the draft. Abramitis going to definitely start feeling that toe here from Banfield. I don't think Foster's close enough to reach. I'm not sure Abramitis is going to be either.
Scott's still kind of poking his nose out, but no, that's not going to work out for him in the end, so they all have to stay in line. Are we equaling out now? Is this proving to be too difficult to pass after a few of them managed to overtake one another? Did see a little bit of an overtake farther in the back, or at least an attempt at one. Thomas and Schmeier going side by side currently as we look down through the final corner and onto the front stretch. Flying. Oh, big spin and going completely through Travis Warling. That was Mark Torres having to thank his lucky stars for the net code there.
That was Liam Quinn, I believe, who had that issue. Justin Kirby now in the pits. That was a very strange incident on the straightaway. It didn't look like it was one of the, snap recoveries that we've seen before. This was strange.
Yeah, so Travis Warling.
Hey, he just turned left. I think he had a hardware failure.
Yeah, I think you're right. And he bounced across the track, did get a little bit of a hit. I think Torres, we're going to see, here's from Warling's perspective.
Oh, he's fighting something. There's no reason to go to the inside there. You can't make the turn one from that far inside. That was wild.
Very bizarre stuff. And
you know what that looks like, Joe? That looks to me like his wheel fell off his desk.
I think you might be right. It does kind of look like that, the way it just kind of carefully weaved back and forth. And all he can do really is just make gentle movements in that case. As we check in on the fight for the lead once again, Warring has caught up, but Challoner is still trying to see if he can get up to his teammate Ottinger, as Lockwood keeps them at arm's length, about 7/10 behind, DJ.
Yeah, and that distance is going to be just enough breathing room to be able to take maybe the briefest of sighs, let's call it. Nick Ottinger will be able to get a hint of that draft on 7/10, but you really need to be exiting out of turn 7, probably closer to about 4/10 to be able to get that move done. And even with some of the speed we've seen these guys carry, 3/10 may not even be enough.
So back onto the back stretch they go. And that 0.8 of a second that Lockwood has over Ottinger, it looks like it is coming quite in handy. Nobody seems able to catch him. Behind them, you are seeing a couple hangers on. Looks like Kurt Crum in there, and then Nathan Dowd as well, slightly within sight, but then beyond that, the drivers behind kind of out of vision from the leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it is that top 5 breakaway that's going on. And further back in the field, we've got Justin Morton, who's actually about to get passed by Joey Haynes. Very interesting moment for these drivers. And here's another battle. It's Liam Quinn and Mark Stevenson just up ahead of them, having their own moments. So quite a few passes starting to happen throughout the mid-pack as drivers try and sort out where they belong.
Yeah, or make up for mistakes as well. And we come back to one of those fights. Is this the one with J-Mo we were mentioning a little bit earlier, as they fly down the front stretch? And looking to the inside, Joey Haynes on Justin Morton wants the spot. Morton's going to give him the space as Barnes now rocks up from behind, tries to take advantage, and Haynes actually gives it up. He lets him through. Morton is one of our onboard cameras here today as well in that number 9 machine as we hop on and look back.
Yeah, there he is in that distinctive VR that we are so used to seeing him have. He's going to be able to breathe a little bit easier now that Haynes gave up that position behind him, but I don't think he's out of the woods quite yet. He's running a very, very good race here, but he's still got a lot of time to go.
Yeah, I think Justin's a little frustrated because Joey Haynes took him too wide pretty much from this point on last lap all the way through to where we saw. So that's where he lost those 2 seconds. So he's got a lot. He's got 3 seconds to gain on Jeff Schmeier ahead of him. We know Jeff's not no slouch. In fact, it's crazy to see the names that we've got up in the top 15, guys. It's amazing.
Now, Face, I'm kind of curious because we've seen the slipstream have such an important effect with that long straight. I mean, how do you set the car up here? Because, yeah, it's got that long straight, but then you've also got the first section with those swift corners where you want the downforce.
Oh, yeah, and that's one of the things that makes those draft trains so interesting because, you could have your 2 separate philosophies. There's not a whole lot you could change on these cars, but one thing you can change is the rear wing. So do you want to add wing, get all that downforce like you were talking about so you could really attack the corners, or do you want that less downforce so that you can fly down that long straightaway? It's me personally, I like having the extra downforce, especially with how tough some of these corners are here. But yeah, these draft trains, who can pull up on who quicker than another car, I mean, it can all come down to how good an exit you get out of that turn 7, and then that difference in wing can make a huge deal as well.
Indeed, and look at this little side-by-side action as Abramitis has Scott Brazier on him. Scott, who started this race from 3rd, wants to get back there, and he's going to chuck it down into the chicane, carries the speed off the exit, but look at the fight back from Tom Abramitis. He's got the inside coming down through the final turn if he could keep the car steady, but no, he can't. Momentum in the favor of the 555, DJ.
Yeah, and that was a good try to hang out there for Tom Abramitis, really holding on to it as long as he could. But sometimes when you are just offline a little bit there, you saw him kicking up a little bit of the dust. You just can't hang on that closely. What he's going to have to do now is reset a little bit. He's still in the top 10. Plenty of time left to go in this race. He's just got to try to hold on to the back of Brazier and keep that draft.
Absolutely. So up next for Scott, Brenton Foster, but it's another 1.5 seconds up the road. That bad start really did him in, if we're honest. Meanwhile, as we pick up speed down the back stretch, Challenger sandwiched between Ottinger and Waring. A teammate to the front, but a rival from the back. Evolve SimSport probably really wants some of these spots so that they can try and get better in the team's championship. But then Waring himself, no doubt, simply wants to try and take the Drivers Championship as well. Stop the domination that Christian Challenger has had, the stranglehold he's had in the Americas region of recent seasons. And on to the front stretch. This is a pretty good run from Challenger, but it kind of goes away there on the front stretch.
Yeah, for everything that's gone on, especially last round, I think Andrew Waring would love to just take it up there and pip off Challenger and try and take that away from him. You know, Challenger does tend to get a little frustrated with the with the wild card rounds and the opportunities that you lost in the past. But I believe that I don't believe that the other region drivers can. And Adam Pachaponte, you could chime in on this if you know better than I do. But I don't believe the other region drivers can take away from your point standings in your own region. Is that true?
Yeah, well, the other region drivers don't score points in this region, but I believe their spot is basically blank. So, you know, if there's 4 guys finish ahead of you and one of them is from a different region, you'll still get 5th place points. That's the way I understand it, but I am not involved in the running of the league, so that's probably a better question for Mike, one of those guys. I'm really not sure. I know I should know that because I'm a majors driver, but I never run the wild card event, so I never really paid much attention to it, to be honest with you.
You only pay attention to the rules that affect you, right? So,
yeah, pretty much that's how I am. There's so many rules, it's hard to keep up with them all, but you got to have them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that is correct, that they just have the blank spots in there, if I recall correctly. So they can still kind of pirate some valuable points away from those who really need them, and still impetus to try to beat them on the track. If not just simply for pride. But it looks to me like they had caught Lockwood, but we look away from that for a bit, coming down into the final quarter as they once again go wheel to wheel between Johnson and Kinchlow. Excuse me, Hutchison and Kinchlow, rather. Hutchison comes out the favored with 25th place.
And Joe, they were side by side, really all the way from turn 6 all the way around into that final corner. So a very, very impressive attack is behind them. I think that's Kuhn and Johnson going a little side by side.
Yeah, Kuhn chucked it into the first turn and managed to take the position away. So now he sets his sights on Kinchlow and Hutchinson. This is still for the higher bits of the 20th places and so on. So this is still important stuff for these drivers. So they're going to be fighting hard. Kinchlow looking very good. Is up in front of them. There's an attempt from Barnes on Joey Haynes. And we saw Joey Haynes give it up earlier, Adam, but will he do likewise here to try and just finish this race?
Well, what's interesting is that Martin has run away to the tune of about 8 seconds from these guys. So either they've slipped up or they've been battling side by side so much that they've fallen behind Justin. Look at this. This is a lapped car, Ryan Bush, and they're trying to make their way around, and Bush takes it way too deep, and he's going to go to the gravel for his troubles.
Sometimes the problem solves itself as they carry on their fight. It might be a bit of both, but I have a feeling it's also the fact that Morton is out of position. He's still down 6 from where he began, so he's on a fight back right now as we head through the timing line, and Bush now back on track and unfortunately causing issues for Hutchison, Kinchlow, and Kuhn, who are all going to try to get to the inside, and they do so dutifully. But it is certainly tense as you try and figure out exactly what that lap traffic is doing, which caused a big incident behind them. Daniel Johnson gets sent into the wall.
Yeah, that I was about to say that, you know, Bush has got to be a little bit more cautious and careful because there are penalties for causing incidents with lead lap cars, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's a bit disappointing that happened in that race, but we have to remember this is not the only point scoring race of today. They have split the overall points that they would do in a normal round that has a single race in 2. And that's how you score points here today. So if you get back-to-back wins, then you get the normal amount of points for a win. However, if you get a win and something else, you do not get the maximum points for the day. It's going to be a little bit less. So the drivers have to be consistent between the 2 events. And speaking of consistency, DJ, this has been impressive to see these top 4 just running in line. No one willing to blink here.
Yeah, I'm getting the sense here, Joe, and we talked about this a little bit earlier as we saw some of the rears breaking away from a few of the cars. I think here what you are seeing up front as we tick over the halfway point in this race, these drivers are saving their stuff. They are not pushing that hard. They're all in a comfortable position, and they're trying to hold on to that tire grip as long as possible to make a full-out assault by the end of this race. Watch those final 5 minutes or so to be absolutely electric between these 4.
And this is a pretty similar format to the Porsche Esports Super Cup series as well, the official race that Lockwood normally races, Adam. So I wonder how much this is playing in his favor, because he already kind of knows the tricks of this thing, probably.
Yeah, and I think that my guess is Lockwood's comfortable out there leading, but my guess is he's not running his full pace yet. I would guess that he's doing a little bit of a Formula One strategy where he's just managing pace to the cars behind him, and he'll have a better opportunity at launching a strike later on in the race when things start to get chippy.
I think that's a fair bet, frankly. And they've pulled away from the next one back, Kurt Crum, by about 4.5 seconds. So we'll see flashes of Kurt way into the background, but he's not really a factor currently. We still have 37 of our 38 starters out there running today. We've only lost Travis Warling. Ryan Bush is in the pits taking repairs, though, in the meantime because of his little incident. And now, as we come onto the front stretch, got a nice little battle between Wayne Hutchison and Nick Kuhn that carries on. We were witnessing before Lynn Kinchlow in there, and now Brian Halleck. Believe that's a new face in this quartet.
Yeah, it is indeed. He's been able to catch up to the back here and make this into a quartet. As you said, he had a little bit of a look down to the inside going into 1, just trying to push offline a little bit Lynn Kinchlow, but Kinchlow not being deterred.
Now there is Hutchinson up there leading the group, although I guess you could say that Nick Kuhn is leading. He's starting to pull away, though. I wonder if now that he's got free air, he's going to be able to drop these 3 onto the backstretch. This will be a big telling point on whether or not he can do that for sure as we go up to the battle between Thomas and Swaby. Pegleg's going to win out for 18th behind them. I think there was also a swap between Schmeier and Morton.
That was Morton trying to get past Schmeier. Couldn't quite do it, but Swaby, and Schmeier got a slowdown, so he's going to let Morton go through. Morton says, thank you very much, and he looks forward for Joshua Thomas and Lynn and Swaby, with Swaby making that move.
So now Justin only down 5 from where he started.
Oh, and the lead switching.
Oh, okay. So Lockwood either allows or was not able to hold back Ottinger, who is now...
It was Ryan Bush. It was lap traffic.
Uh-oh. He's not making friends today, that is for sure. And Challoner is going to try it, and they're going to go 3 wide. That's his teammate, is it not? One of our Evolve drivers, but it looks like Challoner can't quite make the pass. Andrew Warren trying to come back through as he cuts underneath a savvy move from the number 5, and he's going to have that 3rd place.
Great stuff there to be able to take advantage of a very sketchy opportunity for Waring, and that's going to find him up, and that's somebody around in the back. Who's that?
Trying to make out who that is.
That's Ryan Bush.
Oh, no. He's going to try and carry on, though. Oh, and almost runs into the path of oncoming drivers. Now I think he's going to have to call it. That might be our 2nd retirement. And Face, I know we as viewers and, of course, drivers get frustrated with that, but lap traffic, that's just the name of the game sometimes in racing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that you kind of hope over the course of a longer race that it will just kind of balance out. But this is such a short race. I mean, it could definitely make a difference here. And, you know, and you guys talked about it in the intro. If you catch a lap car at the beginning of the lap, you're pretty much stuck behind him until after turn 5. So, yeah, it could cost you just a ton of time depending on what that guy's pace is. And then especially if he's got damage or something like that, I mean, it could really create havoc as we saw there between the teammates. So that was pretty interesting.
Don't need to go to it, but Halleck had an off in the chicane. He's going to lose a couple places and fall farther down in the fields. Really, after a long time, DJ, of things just kind of holding position, this all of a sudden erupted, switched around, and now we're back to holding position again.
Exactly. It's just a little bit of different changing of positions, as it were, changing of the guards, let's think about it. But Lockwood taking a little bit of an alternate line there, coming up out of 1, trying to carry a little bit more speed. I wonder if that's a little bit move of pressurization. He's really starting to push on here.
Yeah, it's a bit of hurry up and wait, it seems. It's all going to pop off, and then suddenly it all calms down once again, and everybody waits for that one moment where things will trigger a reaction. And we're splitting off into pairs a little bit as well. Lockwood is chasing Ottinger, and then Warren and Challoner maybe losing a little touch. Let's see if they can gather them back up here in the slipstream along the backstretch.
Yeah, so watching these leaders start to pack up once again, I'm curious as to see whether or not Challoner is content with 4th and whether Lockwood's content with 2nd. Lockwood looking like he might think about making a move, decides better of it, but poked his nose out and made Ottinger pay attention. Christian thought about making a move on Waring, but just couldn't quite get there.
No, certainly not. And as they exit out of the final turn, they still continue to pull away, even that with that one moment of excitement from 5th place Kurt Crum. There they are in the background of them. Kurt's actually got a little bit of company himself. Ross Banfield, haven't really talked about him a whole lot since the very start of this race. He's still sitting in 6th, and he wants his positions back as he's fallen 2 from the grid.
Yeah, he's trying to gain back up here the best that he can. A little bit of a good run there through the S's as he goes down, trying to close back in. We're closing in here, Joe. Less than 13 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to make a move, you're going to have to make it soon. No doubt. And as we head into turn 6 here, these two starting to separate a little bit. Looks like Kurt Crum heard us talking and didn't want to be any more part of any camera attention as he starts to try and get rid of that 22 machine. So between those two, we head back again. Oh, and we're going to see another change for the lead. This time, it's going to be Lockwood. Is Waring finally going to be able to get this one done and get himself into 2nd place? He nearly makes contact with Lockwood, and that looks like some ghost contact. Ottinger gets shoved aside and Challoner into 3rd.
That wasn't ghost contact. That was just Ottinger making sure he didn't make contact with anybody. He backed out of it. Oh, Waring all over the curbs. He's going to lose a little bit of time. He's going to take the defensive line and force Christian on the outside. This should ensure that Waring holds on to the position. Christian, he's going to try and do the over-under, try and take a look into turn 2 possibly. Thinks better of it. He knows how wily Waring is. Waring missing the apex of 2 a little bit, but still aggressive enough. He's able to hang on to the spot.
This is very unique racing. So interesting to watch this because I'm used to the fight back, and battles going on as there's a big moment from Andrew Waring, but he caught it somehow, DJ, coming off of turn 5.
Oh, that is why he's a pro driver here, Joe. Absolutely mega catch, but he is going to have a lot of work to do. Challenger looks like he gets a decent enough run out of turn 7. You can see Waring knows it immediately, weaving and going defensive.
Yeah, I think he's trying to shake that away. Wonder if we could get an onboard replay of that moment, because that has got to be a change your pants sort of shake for the car coming up over that crest, especially knowing the barriers are so close on either side. As we got a pass between Crum and Banfield, Ross has got it done. Well, the fight back from the 22 has taken him into the top 5, but coming back at him, Crum wants it. No, he can't get his nose in.
And I don't think Crum's going to have the speed in order to pass him in through turn 1 either. So that's going to be position 4. Banfield hanging on to that right now. Kurt Crum trying to claw his way forward again. He's got a little bit of a gap back to Nathan Dowd, 2.3 seconds back behind him. So he can focus all of his attentions forward right now.
Now, here's where it gets interesting as we cut back a little bit farther to one of the battles here. I believe this is in amongst Dowd. Yeah, battle for 7th here with Brazier, Foster, and Abramitis. But I was taking a look at the leaders and where the rest of the field is. They are actually catching some of the back of the pack now. So while we did have Busch to deal with before, they've also caught some of the drivers that were slightly faster than Ryan and might make for something of their own kind of difficulty.
You could indeed, and we always like to say, Joe, the traffic giveth and the traffic taketh away. Well, hopefully it's not going to take it away too much from any of this battle. We ride on board with the 555 here. Brazier trying to send it down to what will be the outside of 11.
So side by side down into the chicane. Brazier around the outside. It'll be the inside, which often doesn't give you the launch you'd think, but he makes it stick. Finds the traction, the 555 back into 7th. He is still not even close to where he began this race. Dowd slots in with Foster and Abramitis giving trail. Now, Face, we saw a little bit of our overall leader.
Big wreck between Nathan Dowd, Bretton Foster tucked in behind.
Oh, no.
They're both into the barriers on the outside of 1. That's going to be some damage.
That was a big send from Foster. I don't know what he was thinking, sticking his nose in there, and it cost them both.
I think he just miscalculated his braking point. I don't think this was a send at all. I think this was just him, a little bit of a lapse of concentration.
Tries to woe it up in time, but man, the barriers are right there on the exit of 1. Let's watch from on board the 23.
Yeah, that looks like he missed his braking point to me.
Yeah,
I've made that mistake before.
Yeah, it's not an easy corner. If we come back to Christian Challenger might actually be able to take second place away from Waring, but Waring covers him off and makes sure and stops his momentum at the second apex of the chicane. But we can see ahead, Face, look at Lockwood. I think he's trying to pull away in case they do hit that traffic.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking there. I mean, now that Lockwood got the lead back after that little action we had there, and here's Challenger. Looks like he might try something here. That's not a good place to try and pass, though. Christian's too smart for that. But yeah, once Lockwood got the lead back, I think he realized, it's getting down towards the end of the race. It's time to try and get away, especially approaching that traffic. He wants some breathing room, so if he does lose a little time in traffic, he doesn't have these guys all over him again.
Oh, another one for Waring. The second time we've seen that, and he doesn't get away twice because Challenger takes advantage. He's going to try and fight back through turn 6. It's a banked corner. He almost does it, but now to his inside, Nick Ottinger says, that's my spot too. Elbows him out of the way, roughly through turn 7, DJ.
Oh, that was a rough pass there. Ottinger not letting anything slide, but I will say Waring is going to get a nice little benefit of the draft here. See if he can keep up more speed, maybe a little bit of an attack coming down into turn 11.
He's going to have a chance at it. Oh, there's the fade. Almost take each other out there, and they come back to the racing line. Thankfully, no wreck, but taking a lot of that inside curb. Is Waring going to have a slowdown penalty? No, he gets away with it, but he also doesn't get the position.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Ottinger had to make that move on the inside of 7, but that fade came a little late, and Waring, they actually made a little bit of contact between the two of them. So, man, this battle between these two are spicing up. Let's see whether or not Christian Chandler, I know the man's sick, so he's not 100%. Can he close that 3.5 seconds to Lockwood in the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, they were doing about 160 miles an hour when he was fading across. If they would have connected, it would not have been a small accident, that is for sure. Lockwood going by the lapped car of Daniel Johnson, and he's been easily picking him off, putting not only now the air between them, but other cars act as a buffer between himself and Christian Chandler. We're down to 5 minutes to go. It's just a couple laps left, DJ.
Yeah, not a lot of time here and too much space, I think, for Christian Chandler to actually really be able to get a real big lead here. But this battle, I think, for the final podium positions, nowhere near done yet. These drivers still looking very, very scrappy.
In fact, they've lost quite a bit of time. Kurt Crum and Ross Banfield have caught up to them a fair bit. So watch out for them. And in fact, there you see Kurt kind of poking his nose a little bit to the inside of Ross, but then deciding not to take it.
Yeah, I'm just watching a bunch of different battles all over the track. Quite a few looking to shape up for really good fights as you close into the end of this race. We got this battle for the lead. We got the battle for 11th position that looks like it's getting spicy. Kevin Hill trying to catch up to Steve Driscoll, and he's taking into Eric Smith, Mark Torres, and Brenton Foster. And this is that battle that we're looking at right now. And my goodness, Joe, I mean, we've got battles all over the track, and Christian Chandler cut a second off of Lockwood's time that lap.
Interesting that Foster is able to get back on track and still in 15th. I would have thought he'd fallen lower, and also down to the inside coming into 6th there with that lap traffic. That got a little bit hairy. That was trying to go by Fletcher there. Ottinger just barely ahead of Waring, who probably has the red mist down after being kind of rudely pushed aside, and he's got a good slipstream now.
Yes, he does. He's got a really, really good one coming in behind here. Oh, he's going to poke his nose to the inside, muscle his way to the inside. A little bit of door banging, Joe.
Gives him his own medicine, but 2 wheels into the grass, and there's a car off in front of him. That was
Jason Wallet.
Oh, okay. And somebody else off. Holy
Brett
cow.
Kirby.
All kicking off, and somebody, that's Daniel B. Johnson. It's a minefield of cars.
And they're still racing. Ottinger right on the back of Waring. Ottinger looking to possibly to the inside of 1. Thinks better of it. But my goodness, we thought that Ottinger was getting his elbows out. Andrew Waring said, you know what? I can race like that too. And puts his elbows out and forces Ottinger out of the way.
I think he figured Ottinger's usually over racing on the NASCAR side. He should be used to a little bit of retaliation there. So great stuff from both of them. It might end in tears, though, if they keep escalating like this. Ahead of them, Christian Chandler is going to overtake on Brian McGreevy, who is going to let them all lap him as well. This is all about 3 seconds behind Lockwood, who is going to get, I think, 2 to go next time by.
Yeah, indeed, Joe. As there they come out of the corner. Looks like a pretty good run for Ottinger, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to really make this stick.
I'm half watching this, and I'm also watching Crum and Banfield because they've been staying close. And look at the weaving that's now starting to happen between the drivers, trying to break that slipstream. Christian wants no more part in what's been happening behind him.
Yeah, I mean, he's seen the aggression from those 2 drivers, and he's probably thinking to himself, guys, we can't wreck out now. We got another race to run, and I want to be in the top 6 for that. So remember, going into the second race, the top 6 swap position. So as they run right now, Kurt Crum would be in 6th position. He would take pole for the second race.
You know, and that makes me think maybe Kurt Crum doesn't want to pass on Banfield. Maybe he just wants to sit here and have the track position when we head to race 2. But we'll see what he does when we get towards the finish. Next time by will be the white flag. So if you got something underneath you, you better use it now.
Indeed, Joe, and I think that is especially prescient for these 3 drivers that we continue to watch, Chandler, Waring, and Ottinger. Who is going to be the first one to pull the trigger? They're about equidistant apart as they dive down into turn 6 right now, blowing it up for turn 7. Let's see who's got the run.
Waring really wants to try and catch up to Challenger, but Christian was magnificent there coming off of 7. Warren's going to give a little bit of a bigger toe to Ottinger on top of it. Oh, we got a car off. Is that Stevenson?
Yeah, Mark Stevenson, a self-spin in turn 1.
Gets it back on the track. That's got to be frustrating this late in the race. Still clipping the dirt and the grass coming down into the braking for the chicane. Still nobody able to make moves. Ahead of it all, Brian Lockwood now has the white flag waving at about a 3.5 second gap. It is all going to be down to who can take second, third, and fourth.
Whoa, and that was a big moment there for Nick Ottinger behind. He got very squirrely, caught a little bit of the curbing and the grass, and that car was almost fully sideways as he crossed the start finish.
Up and over turn 3. This is by no means over, and Ottinger is getting very squirrely all over the place now. Took too much curb down through turn 3. He falls back. Does that allow Warren to start to take the fight to Challenger? Can he stop having to play defense and go on the attack?
Sure looks like it. Andrew Waring starting to power up, looking at that 6. Looking at turn 6, he's got to set up the exit of 7. This is a wide entry so that you can straight line the exit. Andrew Waring follows in the footsteps of Christian. He should have a decent draft here. I know Christian's trimmed out, but Waring is close enough. He's definitely going to try and make a move.
Oh, this has got to be tense because everybody's going to be braking as late as possible, but they don't want to run into each other. They want the decent finish here. He's going to look around to the right-hand side. Christian covers, and he's almost fully ahead by the braking zone, but Christian comes back at him. They're going to go wheel to wheel through there. Oh, and they come together. Around they go, and off goes Ottinger, but ahead of that, Brian Lockwood is your winner in the 39. Ottinger is going to take a shock second place, and Ross Banfield will finish on the podium.
Andrew Waring falls back to 8th position after that. He drops out of the top 6.
Oh, wow. Challenger manages to scavenge a 6th place. Brazier gets back into 6th after all that, which he's going to be on the pole. Unbelievable stuff. And look at this battle down to the finish line. It looks like Kevin Hill barely ekes out Smith, who just chases him across.
Wow, Joe, just wow. That is going to definitely set some real good action for this second race, and I think it may get blood a little bit up, and we may see a little bit more door banging by the time we get to race 2.
And we're not going to have much time, so we got to head over to our results here and show you who finished where, as Brian Lockwood was your winner here today. But Ottinger gathers up the pieces while his friends and rivals all run into one another as he takes second. Banfield was third and Kurt Crum fourth. And you've got Christian Challenger P5 and Scott Brazier sixth. Tom Abramatis was seventh. Andrew Warren was eighth. Osowski ninth. And Dowd rounds out your top 10.
Coming home in 11th, it was Steve Driscoll, followed by Kevin Hill and Eric Smith behind them. Mark Torres and Bretton Foster are 14th and 15th, followed by Leon Quinn, Justin Morton, Lyndon Swaby, Joshua Thomas, and Jeff Schmeier.
And then we've got in 21st position Mark Stevenson, followed by Joey Haynes, Brian Barnes, and Nick Kuhn. Ryan Steele, about a second back of that battle, with Brian Halleck a couple seconds back of Steele. Lynn Kinchlow and Wayne Hutchison crossed the line, only 5/10 separated from each other. And then Ray Partridge was your first car lap down, with Brian McGreevy rounding out your top 30.
After that, it was Justin Kirby who finished 31st, with William Fletcher 32nd, Daniel Johnson 33rd. These are all drivers who are a lap down. Jason Wallet 34th and Brent Kirby in 35th. From there to retirees, Rob Powers, Ryan Bush, and Travis Warling. Oh boy. Let's get one more look at that finish between Challenger and Waring there, and see if we can figure out what exactly happened, and see if we can see if anybody has blame on that, or if it's just a racing deal. I don't know, Adam. What are you thinking?
Yeah, Challenger actually locked up the front right on entrance to the corner, so he ended up pushing wide into Andrew. He was just a little bit too deep. There you see the lock up the front left, and so that means he couldn't get the car turned quite enough, makes a little bit of contact with Andrew, sends them both around. I mean, the onus is on Challenger, but that's as close to a racing incident as you can get. But, you know, if there's somebody to blame, I guess it would be Challenger, because he ended up going wide at the apex.
Again, it's such a shame after so Beautiful of a race there amongst our top five. However, it's going to take us to a short break. We'll come back with the second race of the evening, so stick around because more of the Majors Porsche Wild Cup is coming your way.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta, the first race of two here for the Majors Porsche Wild Cup. It certainly was wild, especially at the end. And you got to remember those top six are going to get switched back around here as it is going to be Brazier who starts from the pole on this race. But DJ, I'm watching, and we were talking during the break about that incident at the end. I got to be thinking, if you're someone who is around Waring in this race, give him a little bit of distance, because especially for Team Mega Driver, because he got physically pushed around twice by two Team Mega Drivers. So I don't think he's going to think too kindly of them now.
No, I don't think he is either, Joe. He is really going to have his elbows out there, and there is a way to do that in a, let's call it respectful way, one that's not running in violation of the spirit of the rules here in the majors, just getting your elbows out, really trying to see what he can do to muscle his way forward, maybe taking a little bit more of an opportunistic risk down into corners, especially if he's battling against Team Mega. But his red mist, his blood is going to be up. I'd be watching for him.
Well, Face, I'd love to get your thoughts, because obviously you're a driver expert here. What are your big takeaways from that first one that the drivers really need to focus on in this second one? And actually, excuse me, we'll talk to Face about that in a moment. We're actually going to head to Adam Lindgren now in the meantime, because everything resets on this one, Adam. It's going to be all of your incident points are reset. You've got your spare car once again, but how do you mentally reset for this one?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Everything resets except for your adrenaline and your mentality. Especially if you're, Andrew Waring or like Ottinger got off good with that contact that happened between Waring and Challoner. But remember, he got pushed out of the way a little bit, and he did some argy-bargy himself. So he's probably got to be looking a little bit in his, a little bit in his mirror, a little afraid of what's going to happen. So I think the real thing is to remind yourself that You have a standing start. You're going to have cold tires for the first lap, so be careful off the line. And remember, everyone's going to be a little bit jumbled up at this point in the on this start. So especially those guys who are involved in contact at the end of the last race. So you got to be really careful when you get started. Make sure you give everyone a lot of room and you survive lap 1.
And this has got to be a breath of fresh air for guys like Scott Brazier, DJ, because, I mean, he had a horrible start last time. He was supposed to start from third, which I guess he technically did, but he lost that all before they even got to the first turn. So now he gets to try and not only start from that position again, but even higher up. So this has got to be just an amazing emotional boost for him.
Yeah, it really does. The one thing that is going to be in his head a little bit is a little bit of hyper fixation on the start. Sometimes as a driver, you make a mistake at one part of the circuit or on the start like that, and you hyper fixate on it, and then you get right back into it and make that same mistake again. So he's just going to have to kind of clear his head a little bit, make sure he's calm to get that race going. We know he's got the speed. We know he's got the ability to be able to go, and so that's what he's got to focus on doing.
So I want to ask Face, since he's our driver expert here, Face, after that first race and what we witnessed, if you were down there, what do the drivers need to focus on for this second one?
Well, I mean, first things first, you got to get through this start again. They did a fantastic job that first race. I wouldn't count on it happening twice in a row, especially, you know, some guys are upset. You know, some guys are remembering how hard it is to make passes and stay ahead with that draft factor. So I think guys will be a little more aggressive on this start. You know, and then after that, I mean, you just got to kind of settle into your position. You got to kind of see how the race shapes up. You saw that last race, the top 4 there. Things changed around a number of times, and but it looked like the fastest car won. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, as we watch one of our UDOX cars up and over the hill, Travis Swarling, who didn't have the best of days last time out. Probably going to be hoping for something a little bit better here, but he's starting from 38th, and that is the unfortunate side of this. If you're not amongst the top group, you will be gridding where you finished, and if you had a bad first race, it easily affects the second race, especially if you're Travis Warling there in the 90. Well, we got about 40 seconds left here before they will start to grid up for this race, and it should be fun to see if we get a repeat or if we get a completely different complexion on this one, because there are no guarantees that it will be exactly the same. Drivers might think they're doing the same things, DJ, but you never are when you're out there on track, even when you're so consistent.
No, there is always something that is going to change, whether that is the track temperature, whether that's a little bit of wind gust, or the other drivers that you're competing against. Remember, with that inverted 6, it's going to change things up a little bit, and especially with some of those drivers involved in that final lap incident, they're going to find themselves down the field, so they're going to have to charge up a little bit. It's not going to be smooth sailing.
Clock ticks to 0. It is go time for our drivers. Hopefully you've got everything you'd like in it from here. And as we mentioned, the big talking point is going to be those top 6. Let's take a look at how they will grid up there with the reversed order. And Scott Brazier this time will be on the pole with Christian Challoner starting from second. Kurt Crum will be third, Ross Banfield fourth, Nick Ottinger fifth, and Brian Lockwood, who took the win last time, starts from sixth position. From there on down, it's the same order that you saw before. We'll breeze through these just in case you are just joining us and see this starting order. Justin Morton, I'm sure, hoping for a little bit of a better one this one out, as he'll begin from 17th place. And then as we jump down here from 20th to 30th, you can see those that started to have pretty bad days. And we'll have to see that continue here in this part of it. And then finally, the last group of drivers all the way down to Travis Warling, who will be dead last on the grid for this second start. It's same track conditions, just a little cooler with a couple of clouds coming over here for this one, as the Lights are now up. We are ready to go. Engines rev, and the green flag is out. And Brazier still can't get a good start. Something is wrong with that car off the line, but this one is a little bit better. 3 wide behind them as our former leaders are going to try and sort that out. Down into the first corner, Brazier will drop to third, but it is Christian Challenger, DJ, who leads the way to turn 3.
Yeah, but Kurt Crum making a good run to jump up there as well. Banfield staying position. Lockwood and Abramitis both up 1 as they work their way through that tricky 2-3 complex for the first time. Everybody getting down into single file through the S's.
And everybody clean in the back as well, Joe. Very clean racing throughout the field as they go through the S's.
Yeah, Dowd had a big moment, though. He went off at turn 3 and checked up a whole bunch of people behind him. You'll see a bit of a gap there behind his car, but look at Christian Challenger try to get away as everybody fights for second place. That is going to be Crum and Brazier. Brazier wants it back, but now they're going to give a double toe to Banfield, DJ.
And that was all set up by a little bit of a bobble by Kurt Crum, almost running into the back of Christian Challenger coming into turn 6. And they're fanning out. Noah's Ark behind him 2 by 2. It looks like that outside lane's going to be a little bit more effective. Watch out for Lockwood. Here's everybody coming into 10.
Ross Banfield trying to get to the inside of Kurt Crum, but can't quite get the track position. Slots back into line behind them side by side between Lockwood and Brazier. Brazier just can't seem to get the luck, can't seem to get the starts down, Adam.
And we've had a gigantic wreck in the final corner involving Lyndon Swaby, Mark Stevenson, Jeff Schmeier. Quite a few cars off right now. They're all trying to recover and get going, but that's a big swath of the midfield that is now at the back.
Yeah, that all came from Schmeier, unfortunately. Missed his braking a little bit into a 3-wide situation, became a bowling ball, unfortunately. We'll try to get a look at it in a little bit, but we come back up towards the front of the fields, and Challenger is playing the part of Lockwood right now, who is still bottled up, DJ, in 4th place.
Yeah, he's still bottled up there, but he's got a good run on Ross Banfield. Just needs to kind of capitalize on it. A little bit of fanning out there as a couple of drivers went wide over turn 5. 2 by 2 going into 6, and there's another side-by-side in the back. That was Torres and Hill.
Oh my goodness, this is getting tense here. This is definitely different from what we watched on the first race, as it looked a bit more tentative compared to this one. But Christian Challenger would like it to stay tentative as he approaches turn 10, and here we go again. Kurt Crum with Ross Banfield. This time Banfield to the inside, and here comes Lockwood. Lockwood barges through and doesn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, nothing against Banfield or Crum, but Lockwood, Brazier, Abramitis, Waring, and Ottinger have got to clear him fairly quickly. Otherwise, we got Christian Challenger a 2.5 seconds away. If these guys work together, they could catch Christian, who's a lone car, but they're going to have to work together to get back up there, and they're going to have to get through Banfield. And the best place, and probably the only place they're going to be able to do it, unless Banfield makes a mistake, is into 10. So they got another half lap to worry about this, but Banfield showing a little bit of braking under the pressure, but Lockwood might have him into 7.
Watching to see what happens here, because Lockwood is still staying mighty close, and Banfield tries to go defensive. A bump draft instead between them as Lockwood hooks up to the rear of the 22. Down into turn 6, it starts all over again.
Yes, indeed it does. A little bit of a later apex there for Lockwood. Crum taking a big jump at the curb. I think Lockwood may have this timed right. He should be able to get this move done if he wants to go for it.
He's got the toe, and every single lap through so far, I think Ross Banfield has been in a fight down into this chicane. He's going to get another repeat. Does not feed him out to the inside. I think he knows the reputation of Lockwood. He's just going to allow him to have the spot. And for once, it's at least a little bit calmer down through that chicane. That gives us, I think, a moment to take a look at that big accident that happened down there with Schmeier. Let's take a look here, DJ.
All right, so this is coming out of turn 5 here. Oh, tipped around and everybody just scattering there. I can't tell how much contact there was, if that was a little bit of a pit maneuver, if that was just the car starting to spin on its own. Then this is the big one going down into 10.
Yeah, that Schmeier to the inside, you're going to see, it locks him up. He realizes his mistake, but by that time, he was on a trajectory, and the other two became innocent victims in that one. Probably wondering what the heck happened in all that as they all spin the cars around to try to get it rolling once again. Schmeier's down in 34th because of that.
Yeah, so a little bit of an optimistic move there from Schmeier, but everyone's still running at this point in the race. And take a look at this for the top group again. This is, we're looking at Ross Banfield, who's still bottling up. Kurt Crum and Brazier and Abramitis. Brazier and Abramitis have got to get past these two guys because Lockwood's starting to streak away to the distance to try and catch Challoner. They're going to get left behind.
Indeed. And we've been asking who is the person that can take the fight to Christian Challoner. Well, Lockwood's trying to answer that call here today, as not many can usually keep pace with him, but he does have a slight advantage in that he seems to be in a bit better health than the number one. But the battle for third rages on, and instead of Lockwood behind him, Banfield now has Kurt Crum. Instead, Scott Brazier is at least in fifth place. Abramitis is then behind them, and poor Andrew Waring is still sitting in seventh.
Yeah, he's still back there, really, really tight between them, trying to see if there's anything to be had here. Crum looking a little bit like he and Banfield are the cork in the bottle.
Up to turn 6, and this train of cars flows uphill into 7. Whoa, behind them though, some side-by-side between Dowd and Osowski. Osowski cuts back. That might actually be the right call, because look at the launch that he gets onto the backstretch.
He's going to want to slip behind Dowd for just a moment to try and get a little bit of draft. Then he'll poke out again and try and take the outside way around 10. I don't think it's going to work out for him unless Dowd gives him the position. It's going to be really close. He's got a nice head of steam. Looks like Dowd might be a little bit down on top, straight line speed. But look at this. He's coming back. Very tight between the two of them. Dowd, a little bit of ghost contact sends him off.
Oh, that's a bit of a shame. He's going to at least keep it out of the wall and be able to crawl back onto the circuit itself, but the damage has been done. He's all the way to 18th now.
Oh, that's really going to put him back down. He's going to have to try to scrabble against some positions here, as I can tell you that it looks like Waring was able to move up one position to get 6th. He's now directly behind Brazier.
Yeah, it was a straightforward pass over Abramitis into the chicane. Now he focuses forward. But next, it's Scott Brazier. And they're starting to become split just a little bit. I'm sure that pass didn't help all that much. Warren's probably going to want to watch out for those tires. We saw at the end of last race, Adam, that he seemed to abuse them a little bit, because he certainly did not like the exit of 5.
Yeah, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to get up to the lead of this race. I mean, we've seen a 2-second gap close, but he's still tucked into this group. He's going to have a long way to go to try and get up to the lead pack. Speaking of the lead pack, Lockwood has closed that 2.5-second gap down to half a second. We're between himself and Challoner, so not yet a chance to pass, and I don't think Lockwood's going to take it. He'll probably just save some fuel back here and save some tires, but yeah, I mean, Lockwood showing why he is that Porsche Cup driver.
Yeah, he was 0.4 of a second faster than Christian last time by. This time, 0.6 of a second faster. Some of that may be helped by the slipstream, but that green-white car is getting bigger and bigger in the mirrors of Christian.
Yeah, it certainly is, Joe, and that's going to cause him to drive a little bit differently. He's going to start having to think a little bit defensive, I think.
And Face, I've been looking at you, kind of glancing at the feed here with the lead. What's going through your mind right now?
Well, so I'm just thinking, if I'm Lockwood, right now as he's catching Christian, he's got to be thinking what he wants to do. So they're pulling away from the guys behind them. So obviously if you start battling, that could slow you down. He might feel like he's better off just staying there. But if he feels like he can get past Christian and he's fast enough to pull away from him once he gets past him, then you might as well just go for it. You've got, what's that, about 2-second gap. If it doesn't happen in a couple of corners, you could always just settle in, like I was talking about.
Somebody's slow there coming out of turn 3. Not sure what was happening there.
Yeah, that was Mark Stevenson. He ended up having a spin after making contact with the back of Jeff Schmeier. But it looks like Kurt Crum has made it past Ross Banfield. They're side by side as they go through 10.
Oh, and it's going to carry on off the corner. Banfield has Brazier and Andrew Waring having a look, but you can't go 3 wide through the final corner. They have to play patient. Cloud cover darkens the sky, and Brazier almost makes contact with Waring. They almost go 3 wide into the first turn as well, but Abramitis decides that's not the wise move right now. Eventually, they get back single file. But just like we saw with that opening pack in the first race, DJ, something happens and then everybody pounces.
Yeah, exactly. That's a little bit of the way you have to be here at Road Atlanta. If you're running in a pack like this, it's because all that big draft battle is going to certainly help everybody out. Now, you mentioned the cloud cover rolling in. That will cool down the track a little bit. It's already dropped about 2 degrees since that cloud cover rolled in, 109 degrees out on track. That means that there'll be a little bit more grip for these tires.
I'm sure they're extremely grateful for that, since it's been a very sticky Georgia day down here with a bit of humidity just to boot. But Crum is starting to pull away now that he's gotten that overtake on Banfield. But Waring, and Lockwood just made the pass for the lead. So Challoner is not going to try to keep that. Lockwood instead wants to take the point, as Waring just got by Banfield as well.
It was a dive and a half for Waring to make that pass on Banfield. The man does not want to be held up by these guys, but he's got 4 seconds up to Christian Challoner, so he's got some work to do once he gets past Crum. He's got to hope that he can drag Brazier or Abramitis with him, because, I mean, Crum and Banfield have been fast this race, but not quick enough to catch the leaders. Oh, Banfield, very loose entering turn 2.
Held on to it, though, and he keeps rolling. And I guess Warren's probably just simply grateful right now that he's not surrounded by Team Mega drivers, because Challoner's up in second, so he's way up the road. And then Abramitis and Ottinger have not really been a big part of this. They have been hanging on at the back, but I'm not sure if that's intentional or if that's their maximum pace.
I'm not sure either, Joe, but I've got to think that you want to push ahead. If you think you've got anything to challenge for the lead or the podium positions here, you can't wait around for it, especially with this gap that Lockwood and Challoner are pulling out.
Coming down to the very popular braking into the chicane, and Waring now wants the spot over Crum, and he's going to have a pretty straightforward pass on top of it. Crum doesn't even bother to defend. Allows him through, maybe looking for the cut back. He gets a pretty good exit, but there's not enough in it. Behind them, Banfield and Brazier stay in position.
Yeah, great move from Waring there. That's a carbon copy of exactly what he did the last lap as well. So good move from him to get past Crum. Crum still putting some pressure on the rear bumper, but I think Waring will start to run away now that we get to the twisty stuff. Oh, and we got a wreck in the back. Ray Partridge and Lynn Kinchroll are around.
Oh, yeah. And Partridge is coming back onto the course from the gravel. Now, this was a move by Lynn Kinchlow, and unfortunately, it just kind of went south. As Ray and Lynn are on the radio with a little bit of a spat against each other right now, and here we're going to take a look at it.
I think that looked like a little bit of ghost contact there that spun him around there, Joe. Not a whole lot of love between them, not a whole lot of space given, but if you look right about there, there is some definite gap in between those two cars.
And then someone from behind, I didn't see who that was, but kind of finished off Ray as well, shoved the 36 car into the gravel. And Adam's been, or Face has been taking a fine-tooth comb to some of the setups here, trying to see if there's been any differences. Face, what have you noticed?
Well, we can't really see that, but I was just curious if, we're looking at Abramitis and Ottinger haven't been coming through up towards the lead yet, and I was just curious if maybe in between the races they decided to make a couple little tweaks and maybe did not work for them. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it's certainly a possibility. You can make setup changes, so you could see guys that struggled a little bit, maybe be a little bit better here, and then maybe guys that were good, might have tried to change something and might not have worked out for them.
Yeah, I think it's a real possibility. You just kind of overcorrect, unfortunately, between races, as we get a nice battle between the likes of Torres, Thomas, Hill, and Dowd. In fact, Dowd is going to be going around the outside in the 147. Tries to break deeper than Kevin Hill, but Kevin's having none of it. It carries on through turn 7 and onto the backstretch. A much better exit for Nathan.
Indeed, it is. It's now going to be a straight-up drag race as they go down. Little bit of a poke in there behind, going to try to pick up some of that draft as that position lost out.
So as they accelerate towards the braking of the chicane, we got to go up towards the front here. This is Waring under attack from Kurt Crum. He wanted that one back.
Yeah, and he did. And Andrew Waring's been falling off the back of Challenger now. It was about 3.5 seconds when the pass was made, but now it's out to about 5. So he's not able to claw back that. It's possible he's burnt off his rear tires already, Joe. He just does not look super stable right now.
I wonder if we could give a little bit of love to the 90 car for a brief moment. Remember, Travis Worling had to start from dead last in the field. He's gained 17 positions. He's up to 21st, so he's nearly made it halfway through, and he's got 24 minutes left, so that's more than half the race. That said, it's going to be a lot harder to make the passes from here on out.
Yeah, it certainly is. And that's one of the things you often see from starting in the back like that. Those first couple of passes are going to be a little bit easier, but not only does the level of talent increase as you move your way up the field, it's also as you continue to go along, it spreads out a little bit more. So you're going to have to catch. You're not going to be able to catch as many trains necessarily, but we do know the speed that Worling has, and he's certainly able to get a good move on.
Meanwhile, Ryan Busch going to get lapped again by Lockwood. Whoa. And he was trying to get out of the way. Christian Challenger is able to catch up because of it. Busch was on the radio trying to inform him which way to go, but it sounds like it came a little late.
Yeah, so that's going to close Challenger up, but Challenger, I don't think, had any intention of getting past Lockwood, so he's just going to close up, put some pressure on Lockwood, and then let Lockwood tow him along. We still have 23 minutes left in this race, and I think about this time, and Face, you could correct me if I'm wrong about this, but about this time is when the fatigue's going to start hitting these drivers, where it really feels like the clock just can't go fast enough.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're getting into, what are we, about an hour's racing total if you count the first race, and you've got a ways to go yet still. We did have that little break, so me personally, between races like that, I don't like to really take much of a break. I don't get out of my chair or anything like that. I don't like to get out of my kind of zone. But some guys, they might get up, stretch, go grab a drink of water or something. But yeah, you're definitely getting to the point where, you've run a pretty decent clip here. And these cars aren't easy to drive. You talked about that earlier. You gotta be up on the wheel with these things. And so yeah, fatigue can definitely be a factor.
On screen, we were seeing Banfield try and make a go on Crum with the lap traffic. Didn't work out. And I'm glad Face mentioned that, because actually that is a talking point with Christian Challenger. He did tell me before the race that his worry was that break between the races. Because remember, he's racing while under the weather. That means a lot of his energy is coming from the adrenaline. He said that in his experience in the qualifying, as soon as the qualifying was done, he was exhausted, and that was 2 laps. So imagine doing all the laps that he did here in the race and then suddenly having to have the adrenaline go down, and now he's got to do it all over again.
Yeah, it's absolutely exhausting, Joe. And, we talk about that mental fatigue. There's also the physical fatigue. A lot of these drivers have very, very high-end direct drive wheels that put a lot of force through your forearms. And if you don't think that takes it out of you, just look at these drivers at the end of the races. They are sweating. They are in it. And so it's a combination of that mental and physical fatigue that can really drown you out.
So down into turn 10 one more time. Lockwood versus Challenger. Now, Challenger is just as savvy as Brian here. I wonder if he's just trying to cling to the back of that 39 until the time is right to try and make an attack. Now, cling might be the right word, because you can see him lose a little time there off of the last chicane and around past the start-finish line. So he could be struggling in a few spots.
And Challenger has so much seat time, and just in iRacing in general. There is a little bit of this that's going to come just as second nature to him, where he can kind of just coast, especially with Lockwood up ahead, setting pace for him. He can kind of just hang right at about here. He's been at about half a second ever since Lockwood went by. and he's just hung on to this gap. And so there's a little bit, there's probably a little bit of marching while asleep going on right now with Christian. But I'm pretty sure as we click closer to the end of this race, he'll start to build that adrenaline up again and try and put Lockwood behind him.
If he manages to take a win during this one, I have to say that might be one of his best races he's ever run, because that is no small feat to do what he is doing right now. As he's certainly not lightly sick from what he's told me. It's pretty exhausting for him. Meanwhile, we watch Ottinger, who has not only managed to get by Abramitis, but also Scott Brazier, and is now trying to catch back up to Banfield and Crum, as well as Warren, who seemed to have put some distance. I think maybe it was a little bit of hanging back there, DJ, for Ottinger, and he's deciding he's had enough of that.
Yeah, and I think this was all really precipitated by on the last lap, Brazier got a little bit squirrely coming down through turn 12 right there, and that just kind of gave Ottinger the kick in the pants that he needed to get up and going. He's able to close down.
Sorry, Liam Quinn's off, and this was a big shunt from behind.
And I think, was it Busch? Because he was off too.
Yes, it was.
Oh, no. Well, there was a car who was inside. It was Dowd. Busch was trying to get out of their way. I think he lost sight of their braking points and unfortunately took him off. Dowd, in the meantime, just carried on like nothing happened.
Yeah, indeed, Joe. There, a big jump at the curb, though. That car is not handling well. As we jump back to that battle for P3, Warren continuing to lead from Crum from Banfield. Ottinger starting to close in behind.
So Warren got the clear air, but he's not been able to drop them. The slipstream just proving too much of a nuisance here to get rid of the chasers. And they still got view of the leaders there. We saw them flashing by the screen so they can catch them on these long straights, just heading over the crest. And then they disappear once again. A little bit of a look that time from Kurtz. He really wants to get back onto that podium.
Yeah, Kurt is really starting to, he is absolutely clung to the back of Andrew Waring. And honestly, we saw this in the Camel race yesterday as well, where a driver who has not historically had the pace of a driver who's passed them, using the driver who's passed them as a little bit of a reference point and able to increase their speed and start to challenge the driver who has historically been faster than them. So a good opportunity there for, Kurt Crum to try and make a pass.
Absolutely. And I know you're talking about the battle Barnes has been having with some of the Legends drivers. Well, he just overtook Nick Kuhn for 22nd place. There you see on screen, they're trying to lap Ryan Busch, who pulls off to the left-hand side, or right-hand side, rather. He's going to let one go, but I don't think he can let both of them, and that got a little sketchy.
It got very sketchy there indeed, Joe. It's going to break up that battle a little bit for the moment. Busch just trying to get out of the way of those drivers, and there they get clear by the S's.
Glad it didn't break up the battle too badly. And they're going to get back to it here in just a moment. Up and over the rise, Lockwood now about 0.6 of a second away from Challoner. Christian's got to be careful. He could indeed lose the slipstream here.
Yeah, Challoner's got to be careful. It's starting to widen, 0.2 between them. Christian's got to pick up the pace. I think Lockwood's starting to pick up the pace, seeing whether or not he can shake Challoner early, because I think he realizes it's just going to be the two of them. Andrew Waring 6 seconds behind now and falling farther, so there's really not much between. It's just going to be between Lockwood and Challoner. So if Lockwood can drop Challoner at any point during this race, he's free and clear.
This is a battle here on screen with, I think, is this Johnson and Kinchlow? Yeah, it is. Kinchlow is unfortunately, out of control. And he is going to slide off the course into the gravel. No, he keeps it out of it, and he'll keep going. But wow. Daniel Johnson gets 32nd after that.
And that's just about the luckiest off track I think I've ever seen, Joe. I thought for sure that was going to be a multi-car pileup going down into 10.
Kinchlow's got a meatball. Was that
suspension damage, probably?
Was there ghost contact there? Because there was a very strange bobble out of Kinchlow. I wonder if the sim maybe thought that he got a hit that wasn't there. Oh, never mind. It wasn't that. It was this. Coming out of turn 5. And yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll certainly do it there, Joe.
Good catch by our director on that one. Oh, once again, I've done that so many times over
Yep,
turn
me
5.
too.
Yep.
Sure, eventually drivers are going to ask them to move that wall back a little bit farther. It is such an annoyance, but it collects just about as many as that wall of champions back at Montreal. Meanwhile, here Andrew Waring has basically put his nose to the grindstone, knew that he's going to have to make some passes. He did that, and then is dealing with the pressure. I got to tip my hat to this number 5 car for the way that he has been able to charge through what are some very talented drivers and then hold on to the lead and prevent them from taking it back.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Joe. I thought for sure that Waring was maybe going to lose a little bit of pace here, but he is just running a great race, weaving a little bit, trying to break that draft.
Well then, this carries on, but we're into the final 15 minutes of this race. So pretty soon, we're going to hit that go time mark. And who will start to up the aggression? Certainly looks like Ottinger might be doing it because he's caught Banfield, and he wants to overtake the UDOX driver.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ottinger in a really good position on Banfield. Not enough room to make the move in turn 1. And honestly, guys, we're seeing a lot of trouble right now. You know, we're just about to that 10-minute mark, and as the tires start to fade, that's where you see the drivers who have really held on to their tires versus those that have been abusing them. So that's where we're going to see the passes really start to crack off again. And just as a note, Christian Challenger still hanging on to 7/10 behind Lockwood. Lockwood has not been able to escape Challenger up in the lead.
But this is all about 6.3 ahead of the next pack that we see on screen right now. Just been outpacing everybody. Once they shook that slipstream, it seems like nobody could hang on. But onto the back stretch, the draft happens all over again, and it's really been the big story of this race. A little bit of a look to the side from the back. I think that was Ottinger maybe, just trying to show himself in the mirrors as we ride on board with Scott Brazier, who is currently in 7th. So 6 positions lost for him this time, but you never know. Last time out, he suddenly found himself on the podium at the very end.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing is over until they says it's over, as they say. And with 12 minutes left to go in this race, plenty of things can still happen as we ride on board the hood of that car. And with as close as this battle is, Joe, I've got to think we're going to see some fireworks before the end.
By the way, Travis Warling up to 18th now, so he's within the top half of the field for sure. He is 20 up from where he began. Just want to give a little love to him since he's not been having the greatest of days, but he's certainly been making the best of it here in the second race.
We're getting reports that Christian Challenger just had a big moment in turn 5. This made him lose about half a second to Brian Lockwood, and he was all over the curbs in 5, so he's going to be hard-pressed to hang on to Lockwood now. I think Lockwood, if he notices that Christian's a second behind, he's got to absolutely throw it into the next couple of corners and try and bring that out to a 1.5 seconds. At that point, he'll have broken the draft, and Christian Challenger will be well in his rear view.
Oh, but look at this. It looks like Warren is not going to be able to hold on this time unless he's very good under brakes, and he is. Kurt Crum has got the inside, but not much of an overlap. He could cut back and get underneath them. No, he's going to go clear around the outside. And here comes Ross Banfield as well, considering a 3-wide situation, then backs out of it onto the front stretch. Kurt Crum will once again have to go the long way around as Warren will cover off the inside to the corner. Cuts back underneath yet again. He could try and continue it into turn 3, but no, I was going to say, not usually the best idea.
No, it is very tricky to get anything done there through turn 3. And Joe, I think those fireworks I predicted, they're starting to fire off just a little bit early.
I'm looking at Challenger. He's up to 1.3 seconds. So here's the $10 million question. If Challenger truly falls off of Lockwood, can Waring run him down?
So 7.5 seconds in 10 minutes is a lot of time to ask. And even though Christian Challenger may be ill, he's not that far off pace. So 1.2 seconds, Challenger still is hanging on to Lockwood, but I mean, he's that's about where it was when he made that mistake in 5. But if he can't catch Lockwood, Lockwood's going to have to run into some traffic that brings Challenger in, I think. Otherwise, he's not going to get there.
No, it's looking like a foregone conclusion, as this time Warren is much safer down into the chicane, and they all stay single file. Yeah, this group has just been bubbling up. I know we've been showing a lot of it, but this is our best battle on the track right now, frankly. Everybody else is pretty much spread apart, other than a few two-person fights farther down in the field. But this is something where eventually someone's going to make a move that maybe is a little too ambitious, and it could all erupt all over again.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. With just as close as they are, we've seen the sort of mistakes just start to filter in here a little bit. That's a combination of the mental fatigue, the physical fatigue, and the wear on these tires. Now, temperatures have risen back up out on the track. They are back up to 116 degrees Fahrenheit, so that just means there's less grip and a little bit of side-by-side going into 6.
Oh, this time it's Ottinger having to play defense instead. Scott Brazier says, if you're not going to keep moving forward, I want that one right back. Oh, and a bobble off the corner. That was Banfield. So now Ottinger gets to play the attacker. He's got a huge run here. Does he take it? Defending across the middle of the road, just kind of fading across. Now he's going to leave the inside open. Ottinger says, I'll take that, thank you. If you're going to leave it, as they break for the chicane. Oh, Ottinger not as good as Ross, and he'll retain the spot.
That was a very early turn in from Ross that made Ottinger lock up his tires, so Scott Brazier is going to try and make a move up the inside here in the final corner. This is often a tense moment between drivers, and they don't stand with each other. More contact between them. They're both going to go spinning, and it looks like Ottinger's able to retain it as Brazier is going to go off.
Oh, unfortunately, Brazier unable to play the support role after this one. He has to take a tow. Well, I said that was all going to explode into something, and that answered that question.
Yeah, it did indeed, Joe. And unfortunately here for Ottinger, that's going to put him down about 2.2 seconds off of Tom Abramitis. That whole big gaggle that we were watching has really, really broken up. It's now kind of a two-car breakaway with Mooring and Crum and Banfield running off into the island unto himself.
Yeah, it seems like what was something that could have been a huge fight just dissipated in an instant. But I'm sure Warren is happy about that. He's trying to shake Kurt Crum still. Only one driver to fight against is certainly going to be easier than a whole pack of them in these final 7 minutes.
And Joe, speaking of shaking, Challenger 2 seconds behind Lockwood now. So the deed has been done. Lockwood got into that 10-minute mark. The metal using up even more tires now, and it's really going to take a huge bobble from Lockwood for Challenger to catch him. Waring 6.5 seconds back. I think this is our podium unless Crum can catch him.
However, look at the lap times between Challenger and Waring. It was a 22 flat for Christian, Waring a 20.9, so 1.1 seconds faster. Yeah, it's going to take a lot, but I don't think it's as impossible as you made it out to be.
It's certainly not. Christian did catch a little bit of traffic on that last run around, and there you can see catching a little bit more traffic on this run around, but still, I would be looking in my rearview mirror here if I was Christian Challenger.
Yeah, and he started from second, so a fourth place last time. He wants a little bit better than that. A second place will do it. A third will still do it, but as soon as Warren catches him, there's no doubt the rest will try and get involved. Speaking of getting involved, Banfield, oh, no, excuse me, that's a lapped car. I thought he was making a pass.
Yeah, so that's Ryan Bush that Banfield had to get by. Abramitis getting by Bush as well. This actually has brought Abramitis back in on Banfield, so those two should be battling it out for the final 6 minutes as Abramitis now tucked in behind Banfield. Banfield, I've noticed, like, after that pass, I went back and looked, and he actually usually takes a little bit of an early turn into turn 10, so that would not have been a surprise to his competitors. Banfield going off track just a touch there.
Well, it looks like it was the lap traffic, by the way, between Challenger and Warren, because this time Challenger a tenth faster than Andrew. And that puts him a much safer distance. But as they climb up the hill towards turn 5 here, that is Daniel Johnson, who is another of our lapped cars. with a bit of damage on the front of it. He just got lapped by Christian Challoner. McGreevy is behind him, but then you get to Andrew Waring, but the next one back, so they're going to be overtaken probably before they get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there on that one, Joey. See, there goes Waring streaming by some of those other lap traffic. Now, he is starting to build that gap to Crum. It's almost a full second here, so that is very, very good news for the number 5.
Another update on Travis Warling. He has gotten up into 16th place now, 22 positions up. Easily our hardest charger in this one, although there have been some others that made good inroads. Justin Kirby up 9, Rob Powers up 8.
Yeah, so taking a look at the times all around the field, the battle for third is one of the closest. We have another battle for 10th position between Ethan Ozowski and Eric Smith, as Eric's starting to gain a little bit. Got a nice one for 12th position between Mark Torres, Justin Morton, and Nathan Dowd. Nathan Dowd and Justin Morton seem to be fairly inseparable this race. But right now, looking at the battle between Ozowski and Smith, as Smith trying to close that gap.
Indeed, one of our closest fights right now. With 4 minutes left to go up into turn 3. Ozowski is the leading car that you see in the black and red with the white and black behind him. Eric Smith giving chase in the 29, plunging down through the valley, and then back up you go again towards turn 5, which has been the bane of a few drivers here today, but both of them are successfully across the crest. This will decide who is the last of the top 10 to cross the line.
Yeah, will indeed here. And for Smith, he's got to really nail this corner exit. He was a little bit off the apex there, and that cost him a couple of tenths off of the exit. He needs to start to close down here. He was a lot closer, but once they got through the twisty bits of the S's in turn 5, he lost a little bit of time.
Yeah, just not nearly close enough, but the slipstream will help him get back up to it. Checking to see where are our leaders. So just crossed maybe about 10 seconds ago. I think we're on 3 laps to go here.
Yeah, 3 laps to go, and Challoner just has not been able to close up like you said. So Lockwood out to that 3-second gap. Waring still holding at 6 seconds, and he's actually got a good enough cushion over Crum, now out to about a second. Crum's, though, under heavy pressure from Banfield and Abramitis as they go past lap traffic.
Oh, in a very difficult place to try and lap the traffic. McGreevy is doing his best, but there's no place to go through the S's section. Daniel Johnson, in the meantime, who is in a battle with McGreevy, accidentally lets him past with that maneuver.
And that's sometimes what can happen when you try to be the gentleman. Whoo, a little bit sideways there coming off of the corner for Nick Ottinger, but he'll get a nice little bit of toe here as he gets his way, I'd imagine, by McGreevy here on the straightaway.
That's Johnson directly in front of him, and then McGreevy up the road. Yeah, he's not going to catch the 68, but he will be able to overtake on Johnson. Crossing with 2 minutes left. Yes, it is now it is 2 laps to go for our drivers for sure. And Lockwood has a handy 4-second gap over Challoner. Waring is up to 5.3 behind Christian, but we suspect that Christian is simply managing the race here to the finish. Look at this nice battle down into turn 1. McGreevy, oh, excuse me, that's more lap traffic yet again as Ottinger goes by McGreevy, but boy, he lost a lot of time up to Tom Abramitis.
Yeah, absolutely. So these battles starting to separate just a little bit. Here's one that's not, though. Very tight between these two drivers as they go side by side once again. And yeah, just trying to navigate this traffic is starting to cause a little bit of problems for these battles. Once again, though, 1 minute left in this race. It's going to be tight for anyone trying to make a move. There's not really a lot of drivers in good positions to do that. A good battle is for 10th between Ozowski, Smith, and Torres. They're the ones who are in the best position to fight.
Ooh, somebody off the track coming across the line. All these dark clouds that we're seeing over the track are certainly making me ready and anxious to see when rain gets introduced here to the sim someday. They've said they've been working on it and have teased us with a few images here and there. As the white flag was just taken by this man, Brian Lockwood. He didn't start from the top. He started from 6 and fought his way past once he was clear. He had to chase down Christian Challoner, and then he even had to shake Christian Challoner. Tick all the boxes for the 39, because all he has to do from here is just finish one more lap.
Exactly, Joe. He's got a little bit of lap traffic to deal with, but that shouldn't bother him too much. He's got enough breathing room that he doesn't need to really go on a full-out attack on this lap traffic. He can just kind of let it come to him.
So Brian Lockwood out of the final turn, and now on to the backstretch. He's got himself just one more serious braking zone to go, and a little traffic in front of him. Wade Hutchison might even pull aside to let him through, not wanting to cause any problems. Hutchison in 27th, so a few cars at the back lapped, but not a whole lot of them. Oh, and who was that off?
That's Brian Halleck. He got caught out by Ryan Bush going slow in the front straightaway and made contact with him.
Meanwhile, Lockwood off of the final chicane. It is going to be back-to-back wins in the Porsche Wild Cup for the 39 car today.
A great win there for Ozowski. Challoner will come home in P2, able to hold on to it. We want to jump you back here. This looks like it could be a little bit of a battle. Eric's, that's going to be Torres and Dowd going down into the corner together.
Looks like Dowd's going to have the inside. Oh, but he gets chopped off as Torres is not having any of it. So the 24, as long as he's quick enough off the chicane, which it looks like he is, will get 12th out of that one. And Dowd will have to settle for unlucky number 13. Looking to see if there's any other battles. And I'm not seeing any, unfortunately, as we wrap this one up. But that is going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta. We just watched the second race of tonight's Porsche Wild Cup, and Brian Lockwood took the victory in both of them for maximum points. But Christian Challoner wound up taking second there today, helping himself out in the championship quite handily over Andrew Warren, who could only get third after he had a bit of a bad finish in the first race. From off the podium, Kurt Crum just couldn't seem to challenge that number 5 car, as Ross Banfield was 5th and Tom Abramitis was 6th. Nick Ottinger, not sure what caused him to be a lot worse out this time. He only could get 7th, but Foster was up from 15th to 8th. Driscoll finished 9th, and Ethan Osowski was 10th.
In 11th, it was Eric Smith, followed by Mark Torres with Nathan Dowd and Justin Morton behind them. Kevin Hill was 15th, followed by Travis Warnling with Joshua Thomas, Joey Haynes, Liam Quinn, and Brian Barnes rounding out your top 20.
Then in 21st is Justin Kirby with Nick Kuhn about 3 seconds back, another 5 seconds back to Brian Halleck and Lyndon Swaby, who finishes in Swaby, who finishes back in 24th position. Ryan Steele just a couple seconds back of him, with Jeff Schmeier and Wayne Hutchinson rounding out those who finished on the lead lap. They got Ray Partridge, Jason Wallet, and Brian McGreevy, your last drivers, who finished on one lap down.
31st was Daniel B. Johnson with Brent Kirby 32nd, and Lynn Kinchlow from there. Ryan Bush finished 34th. Rob Powers was a DNF. So was Brazier, Stevenson, and Fletcher. And looks like we've got, I believe, Brian Lockwood ready to talk to us so that he can tell us what the secret is, because clearly he has got a master of this combination. Brian, congratulations on double wins out here today. Obviously, a little bit of an advantage with your experience in this car, but man, what was the trick out there?
Oh, certainly. Well, this car, it's really sensitive to little mistakes and overheating of the tires. So my plan going into the race was just take it easy first couple laps, feel things out, and make sure I had the tires ready to go for the long run. And seems like that played out pretty well.
It certainly did. But talk about that second race, because obviously you kind of knew, okay, if I get the win, I'm going to have to pass a few cars, which you did. But then you had to not only chase, but then eventually shake Christian Challenger. What was going through your head as you had to topple that task?
Well, in that situation, it's just one corner at a time. So at the start, I knew it was going to be a little bit chaotic. I was lucky there were a couple situations in front of me that I was able to take advantage of. So managed to get through the first group pretty quickly. And from then on, it was just putting my head down and running qualifying laps. So I wasn't too far out of the draft of Christian. And once I was there, it was just a matter of... Really, once you're in the draft, it's a matter of time before you catch up. So that was that. And then, yeah, long race, had to stay focused. That was a big thing. So just try to settle into a rhythm and have some fun with it.
Oh, it certainly looked like you had some fun out there, and you had a run for your money at least. I mean, what's your take on the competition you had here in the Americas Majors? Because it looked like you had plenty of talent on your heels.
Definitely. I mean, if you look at a couple of the cars behind me, we've got Challenger, who, of course, is an ex-Coke Series driver. Nick Ottinger, who is one of the Coke Series drivers. And a bunch of other guys who, really, really fast guys who are coming up or doing their own thing within SimRacing. So, yeah, it's really exciting to be a part of this field, and happy to come away from it with a couple wins.
Well, who helped make these couple wins possible here today?
Definitely the Mega guys. Everybody in Mega was working on the setup, helped me out getting into the series. And yeah, so thanks to those guys. They were all super easy to work with during the race, and we all really focused on having the best team result possible. So it was good stuff.
It was indeed. That was Brian Lockwood, who won both races here today in the Porsche Wild Cup. But DJ has caught up with Christian Challenger, who managed a 4th place and then a 2nd place.
I have indeed, Christian. A tough race out there for you in both tarts. It seems like you were never not involved in the action.
I mean, yeah, to some point. I thankfully made some pretty good standing starts, which I think, made it all right, especially the second one where I was able to actually get out ahead in the lead. That really helped. I got enough of a gap. I don't really know what happened behind me at the beginning. I know that somebody, I can't remember who it was, basically ran in the back of me, and that actually gave me a gap. So that was cool. I just sat there and waited until Brian got to me. I hoped that he wasn't going to tow them up to me, and he didn't. He managed to gap enough that he wasn't going to pull them with him. And then once he got to me, I was just I was totally okay to just sit there and get pulled along. And it's the same in the first race. It's really all I was going for was just trying to get some good points, and it happened, same thing, both races, about 4 laps to go. It just felt like somebody hit me on the head with a bat or something, and the pace went off the edge of a cliff, and it was genuinely just survival. And I already messaged Andrew to say I was sorry about what happened in the first race, but yeah, just want to reiterate that I know there was some pretty aggressive battling going on anyway, but I totally didn't mean to slide into him and spin us both out. That sucked for both of us. I think strangely it turned into a net positive for me, which is a bit of a weird one, but yeah, kind of not what I was going for. Certainly not how I wanted to end race 1, and kind of went against the whole thing of what I was trying to do. Literally just finish the races. So I was happy with that. It was a lot more than I was expecting.
Indeed, and I mean, to be able to do this while I know you're feeling a little bit under the weather, I mean, where were you finding the energy? Obviously, you said you had that just sort of mental and physical drop off near the end of it, but just talk to me about fighting through that.
Dude, it's been so weird. I know there's people out there who don't think that the COVID thing is real. And I think that's actually absurd, because it totally is, and it's really bad. Okay, some people seem to get really lucky with it and they're okay. Some people get obviously much more unlucky than I am. But I mean, just on the basis of if I'm ranking this against other colds, flu, that kind of thing I've had, this is by far the worst and absolutely the weirdest. If we'd have ran this yesterday, there's literally zero chance that I would have completed this race, because I did the 2 laps in qualifying, and Brent was on voice with me, and after the 2 laps in qualifying, it was the same thing as at the end of the race, where you just fall off a cliff. It's the weirdest thing I've ever dealt with, I think, as a normal type, cold, flu, whatever you want to call it. Just go from feeling not amazing, but kind of okay, to just totally no energy. And I got a bit lucky, because there's no real way of, not that I've found in the past couple of days of having this, that you can kind of figure out when it's going to happen. And it just was lucky that at the race starts I was feeling okay, and at the race ends I wasn't. I just said to all the guys I was talking with that I by the end of race 1, I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to do the second one. So yeah, it's just, I don't know, weird, not a lot of fun is the only way I can describe it.
I can imagine, my friend, and more power to you for being able to fight through it. But let's look ahead to some maybe happier times. 2 weeks, hopefully you're feeling a lot better. We head to Indy, obviously one of the crown jewels. How do you like your chances there?
I mean, I've done okay there in the past, but I've always had a ton of support from, Liam. And I'll probably lean on him a little bit again this year. Obviously, we've got a bunch of in-house stuff going on. I know Tom's pretty wicked now when it comes to IndyCar setups. And Brian as well has been kind of, working on those a little bit too. So I'm sure we can kind of have a combined deal of a pretty good car. But it's a strategy race, and it's pretty fun, it's a different kind of thing, and yeah, I do okay. Hopefully, obviously feeling much better, but I already feel a lot better today than I did yesterday, so I'm hoping that I'll kind of continue at the same sort of rate. And I think probably top 5 there would be a good result. You can never really bank on trying to win an oval race, no matter what it is, just because it's an oval race. It's just not. It's a little bit of roulette, no matter what you do.
I feel that. And well, we hope you continue to feel a little bit better as well. But Christian, on a tough day, is there anybody you would like to thank?
Yeah, give shout out to all the Team Mega guys. Obviously, Nick, Tom, Brent, they kind of had a little bit of a rough one today. Brian, well, I mean, we expected he was going to basically clean up, and yeah, he did. So mega props to him for jumping on board, agreeing to kind of run with us and everything. And he'll be here the rest of the season as well. So another good points day team wise. Obviously, we had a little bit of a kerfuffle in both races with everybody. So not quite as clean as we probably hoped, but still pretty good result overall. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to you guys for doing the broadcast. Appreciate it, and appreciate guys who kind of stood in for me on broadcast this weekend as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Christian. That was Christian Challoner, your second place finisher here in race number 2. Joe?
That's going to take us to a chat here with Andrew Warren. Adam Lindgren has caught up with our third place finisher in race 2.
Yeah, Andrew, you are absolutely in the thick of it both races. But talk to me about that first race with the coming down to the final 10 minutes. A little bit of contact between yourself and Nick Ottinger, and then what happened with Christian in the final lap. Man, you were in some intense fights.
Yeah. Oh, I think I was on mute there. Sorry. Yeah, with Nick, I mean, I can only apologize. I just misjudged pulling out there and kind of rode up on him. Thankfully, it was a 0x, so I've kind of backed out of that. But it's like 10 minutes to go, like you said, and three mega cars. Brian obviously being the fastest, but getting stuck in some trouble. I honestly felt like, especially on the straightaways, I had no issues keeping up with them, and I was definitely conserving my stuff. And then when the opportunity to get Nick there rose, it was pretty straightforward. And then with Christian, last year in the Miatas, when we did that race here in the majors, I tried to do the same move on the outside, and I kind of was too nice to him. So I was gonna definitely run him a little harder into the corner this time. I think he locked up and looked like he just kind of got into me. And then we've had some pretty interesting net code issues along, in the past. So it literally didn't give me any hesitation, just spun me on a dime, and he got lucky enough to get pointed straight, and I got lucky enough to be pointed the wrong way, and I had to back up. And then, of course, it puts me 8th in the inversion 6. So it was pretty disappointing, but obviously no, Christian didn't do it on purpose, and he messaged me like he said after. But that sucked for race 1. So
yeah, but then you got into race 2, and a very hard fight between yourself, Crum, Banfield, and Abramitis, with Ottinger falling in behind you guys. Talk to me about trying to hold those guys off. It seemed like the rear tires were starting to give you some trouble fairly early on in this race.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience running this car, and I've had a really quite eventful 2 weeks leading up, so we haven't had a lot of practice. So I'm pretty sure I was running the lowest wings out of anybody at 4, and it was fine when the tires are within their operating temperatures. But getting by all those guys, I was doing some pretty aggressive braking on the outside and some pretty aggressive turning, and it just overheated the tires. And when I got in front of Kurt finally, there was like a brief moment where I was able to pull away, but then the tires were just too hot, and I spent half the race trying to cool them off. But then the last 5 laps, when they were finally back to where I wanted them, I was able to push, and it was pretty easy to stretch away from Kurt. And then, at the end, I'm sure Christian was taking it easy, but I was running him down pretty hard too. So I think, honestly, we had a really good car to win either race, just because, maybe Brian made a mistake. He was obviously class of the field, but, I'm pretty happy with 8th and 3rd, actually.
Yeah, pretty good points day for you, Andrew, and duking it out there with the mega guys all by your lonesome. Yeah. Gotta feel pretty good sometimes. But is there anyone you want to thank for your results today?
Just the guys that Evolve. We've been kind of, pooling our efforts in together this week, and everybody's starting to really pitch in, which is nice. And we have Indy next, which is always a, setup binge, which is just the worst. But you guys, at GSSC, can't wait to watch the broadcast back. The boys at Mega, I'm sure it's annoying having a little green car in their battle that they're having up front. Keep bringing in all these guys, but they race me clean, and I'll continue to be a thorn in their side, hopefully. So. And then thanks to the majors. So I'll see you guys at Indy.
Yeah, see you at Indy, Andrew. Thanks for talking to us. That was Andrew Waring, who finished 3rd in the second race. And we've got Ross Banfield, who finished in 5th in the second race, but also was in a good position. He had a podium in race 1, and he's with Joe.
Yeah, and he was the one that got to take advantage of that accident that we've been talking so much about between Andrew and Christian. Talk about your emotions in that moment, Ross, because you were in your own hard fight for a long time at the end of that race, trying to keep Kurt behind you, and then suddenly you get shocked with a podium.
Yeah, no, I kind of saw the light at the end of the tunnel there, because I saw they were fighting pretty hard towards the last 10 laps. And that was basically my only hope. So I was kind of fingers crossed that I could benefit from someone's misfortune there. And yeah, I kind of saw the C's part when they both went their separate ways and just took advantage of that. And then for the second race, I tried to take it a little easier because if you notice, I almost kind of locked it up and bended like lap 1 with the leaders. So I was like, since I'm a Euro, I don't want to interfere with anyone's points. So I just kind of hung back and took it a little easier.
Well, that still paid off pretty handsomely with a fifth place, especially in a field as stacked as we had today. I mean, a race like this, there's no strategy to it in terms of, pit stops and yellow flags. This is just a straight sprint through. I mean, how hard does that make it from inside the cockpit, knowing it? This is all down to how fast you are?
It could be pretty brutal, especially when someone starts to pull away. Like when you see Brian start to get to that like 5 seconds, 6 seconds, you're like, I'm probably not gonna get that back. So you just gotta hang around. Yeah, it was weird. I don't know what the car happened to the car. I don't know if I got like floor damage, but for some reason I wasn't getting anything from the draft. So I was just kind of like stuck in a bubble the whole race too.
Well, like I said, still a top 5, and that wound up working out very nicely. But we do have a race that will involve a lot of strategy next time out. We go to Indianapolis. Are you excited for that? Is that one of your favorites?
It's one of the bottoms for me. I usually never have a good time at Indy. I don't know why. I either get rear-ended by someone not, paying attention, or just caught up in a wreck. The roulette wheel does not go in my favor.
That's understandable. I know for me personally, it's very special to my heart, but I get that not everybody enjoys the experience. Still, you got a podium in one of the races today. Anybody you want to thank that helped make that possible?
Yeah, guys over at the UDocs, it's been great working with them. So we're just going to keep on trucking. And then, also Insert Coin.
And that's great stuff there from Ross Banfield, who grabbed 5th here in the second race and a 3rd in the first race here in today's Majors Porsche Wild Cup. That's going to close us out. Before we go, a thank you to the sponsor once again, the Majors Garage. We have a link in the description below. And if you use our discount code MajorsGSRC, you're going to get 10% off on your order as well. Don't forget about our charity for this race, Envision El Salvador. We have another link for that one down there as well if you want to see how you can help them out. Thanks goes to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp if you want to find more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, DJ, Zach, Face, and Dougie. You can find more about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Also, check out our merchandise store. It's gsrc.storenvy.com. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Next race, as we mentioned, the Indy 500. It is a special one here in the Majors. That'll be Sunday, May 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.